Some people find the world too small, never satisfied with what they have, always seeking new experiences, even if it leads them to ruin and destruction. It seems they are born with a rebellious and defiant nature. This perfectly describes the protagonist of our story, Joanna Dennehy. This young Englishwoman was born into a well-off family that spared no effort in raising her, providing her with the best private education. She had everything, a bright present and a promising future, but she traded it all for a bottle of alcohol and a few grams of a notorious white powder that has wreaked havoc on families worldwide. At the age of 15, her mother grabbed her hand, dragged her to the door and pushed her out, saying, "Don't ever come back here." The mother had reached her breaking point after suffering greatly. The school had called her several times due to Joanna's misbehavior and aggressiveness. Neighbors reported seeing her drinking alcohol on the street. Her classmates said she was using drugs, and worst of all, the police had caught her twice for shoplifting. Joanna, as a teenager, never attempted to change her behavior after being kicked out. On the contrary, she became even more reckless. Now free to do as she pleased, she quickly found a partner as bad as she was. His name was John Trainer, 6 years her senior. They met in a public park and soon became lovers. It's well known that teenagers are often impulsive, reckless, and adventurous due to their lack of life experience, which makes them unaware of the consequences of their actions, as well as the explosive energy of their young bodies. However, as people age and life experiences shape them, their behavior changes, becoming calmer and more cautious. This is exactly what happened with John, especially after he became a father. But the problem was Joanna. She did not correct her actions and behavior after becoming a mother and a mature woman. Instead, she became even more reckless and unstable. Both were addicted to drugs and also sold them to make money. However, after the birth of their first daughter, John found a job and started to gradually move away from that lifestyle, while Joanna became completely immersed in it, especially after the birth of their second daughter. She did not want children and treated her daughters with coldness and indifference. Her life became a constant cycle of drinking and debauchery. Even after getting a job on a farm, she did not stop drinking, asking her employer to pay her in bottles of alcohol. It wasn't long before she was fired. Joanna began leaving the house for long periods, and John took care of the girls in her absence. Even when she was around, she paid little attention to them. John started hearing rumors about his wife, being told that she was seen with other men. She exchanged sex for the money she needed to buy alcohol and drugs. It seemed that men were not enough for her, as one day she came home with a young woman, claiming she was her lover. John was furious, but Joanna didn't care about his reaction. Day by day, Joanna's violent tendencies increased. She could no longer control her emotions, exploding in anger over the smallest things, hitting and cursing vulgarly. Neighbors called the police multiple times because of the noise and constant swearing from Joanna. Her arguments with John gradually escalated from shouting to physical violence. Neighbors began to notice bruises on John's face, and once they saw Joanna beating him with a cricket bat in their garden. Joanna's violence was not limited to John, but extended to herself as well. She started cutting herself with a knife, feeling a great thrill from the sight of blood and the sensation of pain, which indicated a serious psychological disorder. One day, Joanna returned home after a long absence. When John asked where she had been, she did not answer, but looked at him with contempt, pulled a large, terrifying knife from her long black boot, placed it on the table, and sat down to drink, ignoring him and their daughters. This sight was enough to silence John and fill him with fear. He realized that his wife's madness had gone too far and that it was time to escape. In the dark of dawn, he put his daughters in his car and fled to his mother's house, never to return. John married another woman and didn't hear about his ex-wife again until 2013, when she suddenly became the talk of the media and the public after being arrested by the police for killing 3 men and assaulting 2 others. Her first victim was a 31-year-old Polish man named Łukasz Slabazuski, whom she lured to her apartment and stabbed in the heart. With the help of her giant friend Gray, she disposed of his body in a dumpster. The second victim was her 56-year-old neighbor, John Chapman. She first slit his throat and then finished him off with 3 stabs to the heart and chest. Her third victim was her former boss, Kevin Lee, 48 years old. She lured him with the promise of sex and then killed him with her knife. Kevin's body was found by the police in a drainage ditch, dressed in women's clothing with his buttocks exposed, a display Joanna arranged out of spite and contempt. All 3 murders took place within 10 days. Joanna seemed to relish killing, as a few days later in Hereford, she randomly attacked a man walking his dog, stabbing him with a large knife and spitting on him before leaving. Minutes later, she attacked another man also walking his dog, stabbing him and leaving him to bleed. Miraculously, both men survived. When Joanna was finally arrested, she showed no remorse for her crimes. She laughed and joked with the investigators and appeared to enjoy the media attention and camera flashes around her. Psychiatrists who examined Joanna diagnosed her with a severe personality disorder and sadomasochistic tendencies, stating that she could only achieve sexual pleasure through pain and torture. The motive behind her crimes remained unclear, but she told her psychiatrist that she committed them for a simple reason. She said, "At first, I killed to see if I was as cold-hearted as I thought I was, and then I quickly liked it. I found it fun, so I killed more." In 2014, Joanna was sentenced to life imprisonment without any chance of parole.